it's a rather stormy and windy night tonight. That put me in the mood for something spooky. Now, reading is not my strong suit, and I know what you're thinking. I could have told you that. Don't be so rude. I very rarely find anything to read that entertains me long enough for my ADHD to be able to cope with reading it all the way through. I always said when Britney's book came out, that would be the first book I ever read front to back, and guess what? I'm only halfway through. I thought, let's go on Reddit and find some spooky stories, and I'm only going to read out the ones that I read all the way through. So this is Campfire Stories ASMR. Let me tell you what I saw in the Appalachian Mountains. I'm excited. This is from PHGRIM. That's a username on Reddit. Originally, I'm from West Virginia. I moved around between the Appalachian and Midwest some as a kid. Between the ages of 10 and 13, I lived in rural Kentucky. Is that supposed to be rural, or is that a place? I don't know. In the foothills of one of the oldest mountain ranges on the planet, I lived with my dad and my grams. We lived in what we called a holler. Think of it as like a cul-de-sac in between a set of foothills. We live in the middle of the neighbourhood with nothing but family on both sides. No one lived across from us or behind us because of the foothills. When I moved in, my grams had some rules I had to follow. At the time, I chalked them up to hillbilly stranger danger. There were things like don't mess around with the wild animals, don't go out in the woods alone. Then they got a little bit weird, like don't whistle. If you hear your name, don't answer and don't go to it. And if you see someone in the woods you might know, no you didn't, just come home. This experience happened in August when I was 11. My dad and I had mowed the path through the tall grass and berry bushes to the left of the double wide we lived in. We camped out there a lot because it was close enough that we could check on my grams. Now, when you're in the woods, things are louder than you think. You have animal life, bugs chattering, wind through the trees and grass. There was a stream that ran along the road you could easily hear. That night, we added a campfire to that list. My dad decided to go back up to the house about a quarter mile to get more beer and to check on grams. Before he left, he told me not to mess with the fire. After a few minutes of watching the fire, things started to get quiet, like real quiet. All the wind had but stopped. Bug and animal sounds were all gone, and the stream sounded like it was miles away. I was getting uncomfortable, even though I've been left in the campground before like this. Then I started to smell and taste it. It was in the back of my throat out of nowhere. This awful metal tang. After a few more moments of dread, my dad came back. He was mad right away. He said he could smell burning metal coming up the trail. He accused me of tossing beer cans in the fire. I told him I didn't, and even pointed to the fire to prove it. He said there was a storm coming in, and we needed to get back home, and he let it go. We left the tent and started our way back. Now the very cool but very weird thing about lightning in the woods this dense is that when the lightning hits, it lights up everything like the middle of the day. Well, up until the front of the trees. After the first set of trees, it's pitch black. There are no street lights, and unless you have lights on your property, it's completely black. So it's pitch black, lightly raining, and other than the dim lights from the house windows, there's nothing. I'm eating watermelon as one does in August. In the mountains, when the first clap of lightning hits, everything is as bright as it can be. After the second passes, it's black as pitch again. Next clap of lightning comes, and that's when I kind of see it. On the porch, past the yard, over the stream, past the road, and the ditches on either side. Just past the first few lines of trees, I could see the silhouette of it. Then it goes dark. This is also when I can start to taste that same awful burning metal. I'm not really sure what I saw, so I just kind of stay still. It's a few moments before the lightning hits again. The figure is now closer, standing side by side to the trees. I'm standing now, not sure what to do. It's been 20 years to this day, and I've tried, but could never fully describe what I saw. This thing's head wasn't proportioned to its body. The arms were too long, and torso didn't fit right. It was like if you asked a blind person to draw what a person looked like. It just didn't look correct. Once the lightning hit again, the thing is standing in the middle of the road. So it's getting closer. Not wanting to see this thing get any closer, I go inside. My Grams is doing dishes and asks why I'm inside. I tell her I think I saw something. She almost immediately gets my dad on his feet, telling him to shut and lock all the windows and doors. My dad, vaguely drunk, obeys. That night I sleep with her. The next day we discover the tent door is torn off. It didn't look like an animal. Things weren't cut or shredded, but looked like someone took and pulled it apart. My uncle, who lived a mile or so up, had all chickens killed, heads gone, but no blood. The next few weeks, all the kids had to wait for the bus with an adult. My dad had to be late for work almost 3 weeks. Anytime I tried to talk about it, I just had the subject change. I just figured I was a kid and it wasn't important or real. It wasn't until years later I finally understood. I was in my early 20s and some cousins were in town for Halloween. As I was telling this story, my aunt got irate with me, saying, "Don't you tell them that. Don't you put that evil on them." Okay, Grandma, chill out. After, I couldn't help but think back on all the times I tried to talk about it and how I was shunned. My kid mind not realising it wasn't as simple as a subject change, but then actively shushing me. Once I started dipping my toes in Reddit, I realised there was a name for this fucking thing. The same name my auntie had called it that day at the party, and other people have seen it. The Goat Man. I'm so glad Rose is here to protect us from the Goat Man. Jesus. What bothers me the most is how to this day I couldn't describe any feature, nor have I ever tasted that awful burning metal taste. So friends, if you ever find yourself in the foothills of Kentucky, please remember my Grams rules. Okay, don't whistle, don't go in the woods. They kind of make me want to whistle. The whole thing that got me on a deep dive about the Appalachian Mountains was I saw a TikTok of a guy saying that he could see people like watching him and stalking him and stuff, and all of the comments were "Don't go out alone, and don't go out at night in the Appalachian Mountains," which makes me want to go to the Appalachian Mountains and go out at night. Maybe not alone. I'll take Rose, the jelly cat, with us. So, next one. This is from Stoner Toilet Bowl on Reddit. People who live near the Appalachian Mountains, what's your craziest personal experience? I'll go first. When I was about 7, my family and our friend's family went on a joint ski trip to the Hidden Valley Ski Resort in Somerset, PA. My younger brother and I don't really know how to ski, so when we were both learning, my brother wanted to practice on the Bunny Hill for beginners. So we were practicing there for a while. Note, the Bunny Hill is right at the front of the resort where the rest of the ski paths were up the mountain. After a few hours practicing, my brother I decided I wanted to take the ski lift to try out the other slopes. The friends that we were with already up the mountain, so my parents let me go up the lift on my own. I didn't have anyone to ride the lift with, so this stout, middle-aged lady with brunette hair and a pair of skis offered to go up the lift with me. And I remember being extremely thankful for this because I was scared to go up alone since I've never been on a ski lift before. The woman never said a word, but I ascertained her kindness and reassurance from her expression alone. The ski lift started its slow descent up the mountain, and I tried my best not to look down at the skiers. Since we were so high up, they looked like bugs caught in a light fixture, and I had an irrational fear that the lift would break down and me and this lady would be suspended in the air for hours. But the lift ran its course, and I reached the other ski slopes. Now, there were multiple paths you could take by this point. You could take the snowboard path if you were a snowboarder, and there were multiple paths for intermediate to advanced skiers descending the mountain. My plan was to create a sort of a leveling up system for my ski progression. So I'd start with the bunny hill for beginners, and then after I mastered that, I'd level up to the next slope. Then I'd just repeat the process until we had to leave. I went down the intermediate slope a few times before I leveled up to the advanced path. Now it was about 8 at this point and the sun was rapidly setting, so I decided to go up the lift one more time so I could ride the advanced path. This path was extremely steep and consisted of frozen lakes, creeks and a lot of foliage, so if you crashed it could be fatal. Well, I ended up crashing on the path itself because I hit a patch of snow that was too thick for my skis. The skis flew off, and by this point the sun was already down. I tried to blindly look for my skis, but it was no use. I had no source of light, and the severity of my situation quickly steeped in. It was pitch black, and I was on an unknown spot of the mountain with no skis. The thing that scared me the most is how quiet it was. The silence was deafening, and I was panicking. Out of nowhere, I saw a light coming from behind me. The light reached me, and it was the middle-aged woman from earlier with my skis in her hands. The second I saw her, a wave of reassurance washed over me. She helped me get up and get my skis back on like a mother would, and then she held my hand and took me down the mountain. When I reached the end of the mountain, the entire staff was looking for me. Apparently I was somehow missing for 2 hours. I told my parents I know for sure I wasn't lost for 2 hours, since only a couple of minutes after I crashed, the lady came to rescue. To my surprise, my parents questioned me about the lady. They looked at me like I was crazy. So I told them about how she volunteered to go up the ski lift with me earlier, and my friends even saw me get off with her since he went up the lift a few carts behind me. My parents were extremely religious, so they told me she was an angel, since there were no indications of that woman ever being at the resort besides the 2 interactions I had with her. What? I am now 21, and to this day I don't know what to make of this experience. I know I wasn't in those mountains for 2 hours, and I wasn't the only person who saw that lady that day. I'm not all religious, but how was there no record of this lady being at the resort in 2009? Who knows, maybe she really was an angel. Well, that is definitely food for thought, and there have been a couple of times when I've thought that was a weird interaction with somebody in public, and I've wondered if it was a real interaction or it was an angel or a ghost or something. But that could be paranoia or something like that, I suppose. It doesn't happen all too often, but anyways, they're the only 2 Appalachian Mountains ones, and I'm not sure if the first one was an Appalachian Mountain one, because is Appalachia in Kentucky, or is Kentucky in Appalachia? I don't know, my geography teacher was a bore, so we've got quite a spooky one, and then we've got a bit of a gory one, so if you're not into gore, I'm not, but I thought I would tell it anyway. I'm going to do that one last, and I'll warn you when it's going to get gory. Okay, so the next one we have is from Roland Booker. Scary true story that happened to me. I lived at the edge of a mountain forest in southern US. We used to have a huge problem with armadillos digging up my mother's garden at night, so our solution was to go every night with a shotgun to handle them. One hot summer night, I came outside and did my usual walk around. As I was nearly at the back door, everything went silent. Not the silence of a hot summer night, but dead silence of every animal in the area going dead quiet all at once. I was immediately on edge and began looking around in the dark. the flashlight on the shotgun cutting through the darkness. When I pointed the light at the tree line about 50 yards away, what I saw still haunts my dreams if I think about it too much. It was a set of glowing red eyes. Now you'd think, oh, it's just a fox, or deer, or coyote eyes. No, these were about 4 feet off the ground and about more than a foot apart. On top of that, there was nothing attached to the eyes. No body, no shadow, just nothing. Every hair on my body went straight up. I've hunted dogs in the dark. I've even been stalked by a mountain lion and come face to face with a black bear. But those eyes scared me more than all of the others combined. I raised the shotgun and fired. A massive fireball and the boom of the shotgun shattered the silence of the night. But the eyes remained, and this time the eyes, or whatever they were attached to, growled. It was a deep, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate off your bones. I began firing as fast as I could, walking backwards towards the house. The eyes began slowly advancing. I reached the back door, threw it open, and flipped on the floodlights from outside. From the other side of the door, I heard an angry hiss, like water being thrown on a fire. The eyes were gone, and though I didn't sleep that night, I never saw them again. Okay. Eyes in the dark really scare me, and I often wake up during the night, in the middle of the night, and look around my room and expect to see someone. I never do, touch wood, but sometimes I think that's what's going to happen. But yeah, pretty fucking scary. So we're about to move on to the gory one now. If you're not into gore, then thanks for watching. Love you and see you in the next video. If you would like a personalised video, email me at conlennox@secretary.net. More information down below. Okay. This is by Plyboy111 on Reddit. A man and his wife travelled west in hopes of either striking it rich with gold or at worst finding a nice plot of land to settle down on and farm. Manifest destiny and whatnot. A few months into their journey, they come across a spot, a beautiful plot of land to make their new home. Winter will be coming in a couple of months, so they build a hasty shack to figure they'll hunker down there for the winter and build a more established house in a few months when the weather is more permitting. They don't worry, as the area is teeming with wildlife for hunting and trapping, so they figure they'll be set for food. A couple of months go by and the winter is bitter cold and unrelenting. They've finished off the last of their food stash and they haven't seen so much as a squirrel in weeks. They're both slowly starving and freezing to death as they huddle in their shack day after day with no end in sight. The man's wife is delirious with hunger. Fearing that she will soon be dead, he decides to go for a hunt. He musters the energy to bundle up and heads out, determined to stay out as long as it takes to find them both some food. A couple of days pass as the man takes shelter under the impromptu stick shelters, keeping warm with a campfire in the night time and hunting in the daytime. Nearly frozen to death, mercifully the man spots a beautiful plump rabbit several yards away. He takes aim with his musket and bang. It's a perfect shot. With a newfound energy, the man runs home, giddy to finally feast with his wife. What he doesn't know is that while he was gone, his wife had discovered some tasty flesh of her own. Literally. The hunger had driven her insane, causing her to believe that her now frostbitten fingertips were ladyfinger cookies. She started off with a few nibbles here and there, slowly pulling the flesh away from her bones. After just a couple of hours, both hands were nothing but bone, so she worked her way up her arms to the elbow. The feeling of something in her stomach just continued to drive her further, until she had chewed away at every last bit of skin she could reach, culminating in her chewing off her own lips. The husband approached the shack with his now frozen kill when he got an uneasy feeling. I think she's got more of an uneasy feeling, to be honest. Fearing the worst, he steps up to the door and slowly opens it, expecting to see his wife's corpse shriveled on the floor. But instead, what he finds is even worse. This zombie-like creature with exposed teeth and bones writhing on the floor at the sight of him, chomping its jaws with an insatiable hunger. At this point, one of the scouts screeched for the leader to stop. Okay, that was a made-up campfire story, guys. Don't let that one bother you too much. Okay, kinda wish I hadn't read that last one now, but there we go. So, that's all the ones that I've got. If you would like this to be a series that I do, because I love spooky stuff, I can fall asleep listening to spooky stuff. I can fall asleep watching horror films, and I just love it. It's like creepy, cozy, spooky, cozy vibes, and I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So, if you've got any campfire stories, feel free to leave them in the comments for me to read. Please don't be scared. If you're going to bed now, Rose is with all of us, okay? And she's here to protect us with her nippers. So, yeah. Okay, guys, love you.